Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you've ever watched competitive ballroom dancing, or even just social dancing, you already know there's a certain magic to it. Today, we're unpacking a really insightful article on dance technique by Vladislav Knight from Dance Chicago, called Cha-Cha versus Rumba, Key Differences in Character and Technique. We're not just going to sit back and admire the magic, though. Nope, we're going to break down the actual science and structure behind it. We are literally exploring the anatomy of two of the most popular Latin dances in the world.
And that brings us to the fundamental question, kicking off our source material today. Why do two dances from the exact same category feel like complete opposites? See, Cha-Cha and Rumba are usually just grouped neatly together under the umbrella of Latin ballroom. And because they share that category, there's this massive misconception that they're basically cut from the exact same cloth, just variations of the same Latin style. But as dancers and audiences figure out pretty quickly, they offer entirely different experiences and have completely different goals. Okay, let's dive into this.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Two dances, different personalities. 2. Rhythm, bounce versus sway. 3. Footwork, quick versus grounded. 4. Hips, accents versus rolls. 5. Flirtation versus storytelling. And finally, 6. Nailing the right technique. We're essentially going to build the anatomy of these dances from the rhythm all the way up to the final performance.
So starting with section 1, two dances, different personalities. Cha-Cha is lively, it's percussive, it's driven by this quick, syncopated timing that just pops. It's snappy, it's sharp, and it is constantly pushing forward. Rumba, on the other hand, breathes totally differently. It is significantly slower, highly lyrical, and it prioritizes these long, beautiful lines in deeply controlled hip action. It really focuses on expressive phrasing rather than that rapid-fire speed. You can feel just by hearing those descriptions how completely opposite they really are.
Moving right along to section 2, rhythm, bounce versus sway. Let's look at how the ear perceives the music and how the body reacts.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast. Cha-Cha rhythm is famously known for its upbeat momentum. Dancers actually describe feeling the beat as something they can literally tap into. It's got this playful, highly energetic quality with a super steady, aggressive forward drive. Rumba timing, though, that prioritizes the deliberate settling of weight. It's all about pacing and intention, creating these longer-looking lines between the moments of emphasis. It doesn't constantly bounce. It breathes, it stretches.
I actually want to pause for a second to really appreciate this specific quote from the source article. Rumba feels like a measured conversation. Isn't that just a brilliant way to phrase it? Because unlike the cha-cha, which, let's be honest, can sometimes feel like a lively, rapid-fire debate, Rumba movement arrives through sheer intention. It's a smoother, much more dramatic dialogue between the partners. It isn't rushed, it is measured, thoughtful, and just deeply deliberate.
Up next, section 3, footwork, quick versus grounded. Let's step up from the rhythm to the floor and see how the feet actually move.
The kinetic vocabulary here is wonderfully distinct. Cha-Cha technique demands a much sharper transfer of weight, really keeping the feet busy, so to speak. They have to perfectly match the syncopation of the music, producing a very crisp, danceable texture right there on the floor. Now, Rumba footwork, that is all about being grounded, aiming for incredibly clean, deliberate placements. Dancers aren't chasing speed here. They're chasing stable balance and a controlled progression. This grounded nature gives the body a rock-solid foundation so it can express the music fluidly.
Section 4, hips, accents versus rolls. Let's move to and see how this builds as we travel up the body to the mechanics of the hips.
In Cha-Cha, the hip action is used to support accents. It's what makes the timing feel so punchy. When you watch a Cha-Cha, you can visually sense this quick set into the beat, which is immediately followed by a rapid release. It's a very playful emphasis. Rumba, conversely, is taught as a body-led expression, relying on a continuous, controlled roll. The focus is entirely on how the hips travel and then settle, producing that iconic swaying quality that just perfectly aligns with Rumba's slower, more lyrical musical phrasing.
Section 5, flirtation versus storytelling. Now that the physical foundation is built, let's talk about the overall vibe.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the technical differences below the waist culminate into entirely different emotional performances above the waist. The cha-cha vibe is all about flirtation and sparkle. It relies on smaller, faster actions that exude this light, forward energy. The posture and the arm lines are designed to totally complement that lively momentum. Rumba, however, reads as deeply romantic and story-driven. The entire Rumba vibe is built on creating dramatic tension and then powerfully releasing it. To execute that story-driven vibe, dancers really have to employ some subtle acting choices. Honestly, Rumba demands immense patience from the performer. They have to master the art of pauses and delays. In Rumba, the head and shoulder choices carry immense meaning. Because the feet are more grounded and moving slower, the dancer uses their upper body shaping to create incredible dramatic meaning in all those little spaces right between the steps.
Finally, Section 6, Nailing the Right Technique. This is the climax of our explainer, why this breakdown actually matters for training dancers.
When we stack these side by side, literally from the ground up, it is a masterclass in contrasts. Just look at this breakdown. Cha-cha builds from an upbeat bounce to busy feet to punchy hips, resulting in a super flirtatious performance. Meanwhile, Rumba builds from a measured sway to grounded feet to rolling hips, all for a romantic story. So here's the absolute crucial point, a really powerful takeaway from the source material. Treating Rumba like cha-cha absolutely ruins it. And vice versa. You literally cannot blur the lines between these two distinct personalities. When you try to apply the mechanics of one to the music of the other, the entire illusion just falls apart.
Let's look at exactly what goes physically wrong on the floor when a dancer applies the wrong technique. If you bring cha-cha technique into a rumba, the timing and hip mechanics become way too percussive. The dance completely loses its beautiful, grounded character. Conversely, if you try to dance a cha-cha using rumba technique, the dance looks incredibly heavy and underpowered. You end up blurring that crisp syncopation that defines the entire style of the cha-cha in the first place. The author of the article gives us this ultimate litmus test to ensure dancers are choosing the right technique. You have to ask yourself, what should the viewer feel first? When someone watches you step out onto that floor, should they immediately feel spark and bounce, or should they feel a controlled sway and phrasing? The answer to that specific question dictates every single physical choice you make moving forward.
It all comes down to this. Intention drives the mechanics. When your internal rhythm and the intent behind your hip action perfectly match the character of the dance, the footwork is naturally going to follow with much greater clarity. Understand the personality first, build the rhythm, and the anatomy of the dance falls perfectly into place. So the next time you step onto a dance floor or watch a couple take the stage, are you about to witness a rapid-fire debate or a deeply measured conversation? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll leave you to think about that.